Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Neil Haley Show. I'm the host of the show, Neil Haley. You can go to my website, totaltutor.net, for more information. Twitter, Total Tutor, Neil S. Haley. Facebook, LinkedIn, Neil Haley. Instagram, Total Tutor. Pinterest, Neil Haley. And Google Plus, Neil Haley. And we have an amazing show, and we're simulcasting with the Total Celebrity Show. So I'm excited to welcome the program celebrity Mark Steins, award-winning journalist from the Hallmark Channel, and much, much more entertainment tonight. Mark, thanks for calling. How are you?
I'm good. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic and excited to talk to you today about your career and different things. It's very interesting. Growing up in a small town, did you ever think that you would be where you are in the media and everything with Entertainment Tonight, the Hallmark Channel, and all that? No.
I had no clue. In fact, excuse me, people have asked me along the way when I've given speeches or talked to students, like, you know, what do I need to do? I want to have your job. I would love to be an entertainment reporter or a TV host. I have no idea how I got here. I grew up in a small town in Iowa. My parents were, farmers. My dad worked at John Deere for many years after, he left the fields. And, my mom essentially cleaned houses for a living and could scrape together and was mostly a homemaker. So I really I personally didn't have the mentors in my life to open doors. So a lot of it was, just doing it on, what I've been taught as a kid, which is just a hard work ethic and showing up before everybody else and staying later than everybody else and making sure the job is done top notch, and I think that's what the fabric of America is. We roll up our sleeves and we get busy, and that's the magic behind it, doing it every day.
Doing it every day. So growing up, was this in your blood? When you said you were a hard worker in Iowa, but was this in your blood that you liked to entertain and liked to talk to people and were a talker in school and stuff?
I remember when I was a kid, when I was a little kid, we used to play records all the time, and I would pretend I was the DJ. And we would record ourselves. I wish those tapes existed because we had them on cassette tapes. It would have been great to listen back to those. But I was really a behind-the-scenes guy. I still enjoy that aspect of it. I'm a photographer at heart. I love the visual aspect of what we do and some of the technical stuff. But I had some mentors early on when I got out of college and started an internship at a local TV station in Waterloo, Iowa. And they saw my potential, and I think that was very, very critical in my development. They were like, "No, you need to get in front of the camera," and I was like, "No, I was too insecure to do that." And sooner or later, they convinced me to start believing a little bit more in myself. And next thing I know, I was putting myself out there and taking some risks, and they started to pay off. But it took a long time. I mean, I was turned down time and time again trying to get that first job. It's so hard in this business because they want you to, prove that you can do the job, but you can't prove if you can do the job if they don't give you a job.
Exactly.
So it's such a catch-22. Somebody along the way has to be convinced to take a chance on you, and that happened for me finally.
Yeah, so when you're talking about taking a chance, Mark, basically you were growing up in Iowa, and what made you say to yourself, I got to go out and get out there and get my tapes out and my resumes? What decision did you make that was really getting yourself out there to get your break?
Well, I had sent numerous, for a solid year I was sending out the old tapes, and it was such an antiquated way of getting, now we have social media, we can be connected, and the good thing about that is we can reach out to people and have contact with them. The bad thing is everybody's doing it, so
right,
it's just
exactly.
this massive amount that you have to compete against. What happened for me was really the turning point for my career. I was a cameraman in Waterloo, Iowa, and struggling, trying to, I would make tapes on the news desk and, in a sort of a faux newscast setting after the show was over, and I'd ask the anchors to sit in just so I could get something. And while I was doing that, I was assigned to cover the Republican National Convention in 1988 down in New Orleans, and I went down, and the station that I worked for had three stations under their umbrella, so I ended up sort of shooting for our sister stations as well. While I was there, the most unusual and special event happened that really opened the door for me, and that was, and it's silly, but because of my resemblance to Tom Cruise, I was mistaken. It was a mistaken identity. And all of a sudden, next thing I know, we're being followed and chased. We had, Entertainment Tonight ended up doing a story on it. And because of that exposure, I'd equate it to what it would be like to win The Bachelor today, because there were no reality shows back then. It was this guy who wants to be a sportscaster who looks like Tom Cruise in a small television market gets this exposure, and it was about the time he was doing Cocktail and Top Gun and all that stuff. So next thing I know, I had a couple of job offers come in, and I snatched up one in Springfield, Missouri, and that's where I got my start. And with that window opening, I jumped through it. But I knew that I had to, once I got through that window and that opportunity opened, the rest was all hard work, because you can get somewhere by luck.
Exactly.
It takes skill and hard work to keep that position, and I just followed that formula.
You followed that formula, and it was a break. You never expected it. You're working for a small station in Iowa at that time, Mark, or where you were?
Yeah, I was a cameraman in Waterloo, Iowa, at the NBC affiliate, KWWL. And the job then took me to Springfield, Missouri, and I was there for about 3 years when, out of nowhere, one day, two agents called and just said, "Hey, do you have representation?" And I was like, "No, I don't." And I don't know why or how that happened. Sometimes when you get into small markets, others, I was doing well and getting some recognition, and I think perhaps sometimes you get other affiliates in the market be like, "Let's help this guy move along," and maybe made some phone calls. But regardless, it was a short time after that I read at KCAL Channel 9 in Los Angeles. So I made a leap from Springfield, Missouri to Los Angeles, which was a huge jump, which was a shot of confidence and also major, all the insecurities you have of going, "Wow, am I good enough?" Started popping up. So again, that was just overridden a lot by just, continuing to go to work every day and keeping your head down and working hard.
So that's interesting. It wasn't like you jumped right to Entertainment Tonight after looking like Tom Cruise. You went right to LA right after that. So you had to get more experience in front of the camera before that opportunity. But you had contacts with ET because of what happened at the convention and stuff, and the funny resemblance and all that?
Not necessarily. I had, it's sort of a small world. It was almost 7 years to the day the story ran on Entertainment Tonight. I put it up on my Facebook page a while ago, so it lives there. You can see it. It's quite funny. But it is, I think it through people knowing people, I ended up, and being in Los Angeles, this is one of the turning points, too, for me when I realized the opportunity that was in front of me. As I was leaving my sportscast one night driving home in Los Angeles, and the KCAL station that I worked for, carried the Lakers. And, everybody in town watches the Lakers. So as I was driving home, I remember I was coming down the 10 freeway at the Fairfax exit, and it hit me that Johnny Carson could have watched me. Because, the game is on, and then the game just, you leave it on, and then it goes right into the news. And I was like, wow, my show could be pumped into the homes of all of these people, including him, and why he's important is, as a kid growing up, I used to watch him all the time.
Okay.
And then I realized, wow, now he could see me. And that was the thing that really said, whoa, I got to step up my game even more, and I've got to find a good style that works for me. I've got to hone my craft, better my skills. At that point, I enrolled in Groundlings Improv because I thought thinking on my feet would be a way to be able to help move me forward. So I began pouring in a little bit more to the performance side. I went to acting school and studied almost 5 years of doing that. And all those things helped develop me as a talent on camera.
You were really one in preparation. You talked about hard work growing up in Iowa, and you saw the opportunity. You have a platform like being on a station in LA. Who's going to see? You never know. And from that circumstance that happened in Iowa that ended up to be in LA, you said, I got to be the very best. And being a performer, a lot of you have to have all those abilities, especially, and when we talk about, you know, interviewing all those amazing people at ET and then going on and doing so many more things, you learned everything about this business, it sounds like, Mark. You didn't want to just be, okay, I'm in front of the camera and I'm just a pretty face and that's all that matters, and really I'm just going to be like the normal local. You had high expectations for yourself, it sounds like.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, part of that, you know, is a blessing and a curse, you know, because you're always feeling like you're trying to prove yourself, and you just have to, because it's a very competitive business that we're in.
Exactly.
And you know, the fact that there's, you know, when I started, there weren't all these webcasts and whatnot. So there's more places for people to go, but the prime jobs are harder and harder to get. So, you know, where I am now, you know, I was 17 years at Entertainment Tonight and blessed to travel the world and do all these amazing things. I mean, I was sitting in my office the other day. I was just sort of reflecting, and I've got pictures of, my, travels and whatnot, and I'm looking up and I'm seeing a photo of me with Bill Pullman in Egypt, and then Ben Affleck when he was shooting The Talented Mr. Ripley and Cher at the Super Bowl. And I'm seeing this, and I thought, wow, if somebody just walked in and looked at this, they're like, this is a dream, you know, job. Look at how amazing it is.
Exactly.
Then I immediately stopped and went, you know, those are all building blocks. You know, there was a lot of sacrifice along the way. There's birthdays that were missed, baby showers that for my first, I had to walk out to go to the Olympics and cover that in Salt Lake and miss out on things that were very special to me personally as a family man.
That's
that
great.
You have to begin to compromise. And sometimes people are like, no, I can't tell you how many vacations were interrupted or cut short because of it. But, those are the things that you have to find peace with within yourself and go, this is what's being asked of me. I tell students all the time, I go, you may have a relationship with somebody and you check in with them every day and you buy them presents and you get together for movies or dinners. You have to do that with your career. You have to hold the hand of that career and every day feed it, check in with it. How is this nurturing and growing? Because it's the same thing with any relationship you have in your life. You have to build that.
To be successful in a career, Mark, and we're going to take a break, but to be successful in a career, you have to constantly want to become better. And you did that as an entrepreneur. You have to do the same thing, anything, teaching, any profession, or it's going to become old and it's just going to be like working for the weekend. But you saw the passion, but I'm glad to talk about the family life. And when we get to the second segment, I really want to focus more on that. So when we get back, more with Mark Steins, formerly from Entertainment Tonight with the Hallmark Channel, and enjoying the conversation. And I love hearing about family as well. You're watching Total Education Network, Neil Haley show, simulcast with the Total Celebrity Show, and we'll be back in just a moment. We're back to the Neil Haley Show with Mark Steins, formerly of Entertainment Tonight, celebrity from the Hallmark Channel. And the story, Mark, I'm just amazed, again, how grounded you are in so many ways growing up in Iowa. And finally, how you got your big break in LA. So tell us the story of how you got with Entertainment Tonight.
It was as simple as just what I mentioned about who was watching, and I was thinking, Johnny Carson could be watching.
Yeah.
Well, also watching was this very talented and eager producer, Linda Bell Blue. And Linda, ironically, was from Springfield, Missouri, where I started my career. Not that we even knew each other or had any sort of contact, but she watched me on television. And Linda at the time was working at Hard Copy when that show was very popular, and she had shifted over to take over the reins at Entertainment Tonight. And the next thing I know, I'm getting an opportunity to go in and audition for the show, and the rest sort of is, history as far as her bringing me in. When she took over, she was, they sort of shifted their whole philosophy. They needed somebody who was, sort of a run-and-gun player, and I was that. I had gone out and made a couple of documentaries in Madagascar and Borneo, produced and wrote and directed myself and all of it. So I really had a sort of street smart. I knew how to work something in the field, and that's where I was a one-man band. I shot my own stuff when I was in Springfield, so I had this sort of full palette of experience and a broad basis. So when I went out in the field, not that I directed myself because it was a union shop and you had to have directors and all that, but I was very aware of what needed to be done, and I could deliver for her in this sort of, new offense that she instilled. And that, again, goes back to the foundation of hard work and not being one-dimensional.
So you learned a lot from the business in Springfield and was able to take that into a higher level with Entertainment Tonight and be able to do a lot of things that more than just being an on-air host or on-air reporter, because you could do it all. And they say, hey, let's just get Mark out here, and you get the interview and you do a lot of the different parts of the editing process or managing the team. And that's what they need, right? And in a reporter like that, somebody can go and go out and get the big interview, right?
Oh, absolutely. It takes a village to put on a show like Entertainment Tonight, even though it's a half-hour show, and I'm doing a 2-hour show now. You all have to work in harmony with one another. You all have to be able to do your job, and when they send you to some place like, whether you're at the Cannes Film Festival or you're in Egypt and Cairo, you get off a plane and you're by yourself and you're looking around. You can't read anything because you're in Egypt and you're trying to figure out where you even go to get the baggage claim, and you're looking for somebody who's holding a card with your name on it, some driver who's going to pick you up and pair you up with a remote crew that you've never met before, and you all have to immediately hit the ground running and go to work. And you need your expertise to really step up to be able to sort of do those kinds of jobs, and that's where it pays off. That you have put the work in and sowed the seeds early in your career, so you know how to handle situations like that.
Yeah, definitely. Learn how to handle different situations. Somehow this interview is going to be cut to 2 minutes. What am I going to do? Or I have to do it while there's a lot of noise in the background. You just never know. Or where can I find the best shot to talk to this person? And then you have your talking to their publicist and going back and forth. And you have 3 minutes to do something. You have to be able to move on the fly, and you learned that from Iowa to Missouri to all those different places. So, Mark, I know it's kind of like almost interviewing Barbara Walters in some way, looking at myself as a young journalist who's did this and with no training. Basically, I was a professional wrestler for so many years. To listen to somebody, I want to interview those big names, and to learn from you, especially, and seeing an award-winning journalist. Tell me specifically two of your most favorite interviews you've ever had all time. Just a little bit about why you like that.
Yeah, I get this question a lot, and it's funny because there are times when I work with people, the young producers at Home and Family, and we'll have somebody come on. We have Belinda Carlisle on just recently, and and we've had so many, but they kind of want to know the same thing. They're like, what was the best time of your life? Or that's like saying, what's your favorite color? It's really hard to pinpoint that. And I personally direct them away from those conversations because I want to have a specific conversation with the guests that I have. But back to answering your question, I mean, I've always had the best interviews for me are those who come to dance to the same music that I'm dancing to.
Right.
And that's people like Cher or Travolta has always been one of my favorite. Whenever I see them, I know we're going to have really lively banter because we just have a connection, sort of a friendship that exists. So we're just happy to see each other again, and they work. I'll bring up one example. This is not related to my best or one of my more memorable ones, but it goes back to having an interview cut. I had Nicole Kidman's first interview after her split with Tom Cruise. And we were at the Cannes Film Festival, and she was promoting Moulin Rouge, which was a big step for her, and this Baz Luhrmann film. And we had 20 minutes in a conversation with her to sit down. So we had this beautiful scene. We're up on a bluff shooting, in this sort of villa-esque area that we had rented. And in short, she, the interview, okay, we're going to cut it to 15 minutes. We're like, okay, we got that advance notice.
Yeah.
And when she finally arrived, she sat down, and as they were miking her up, the publicist comes in and says, you have 7 minutes.
I've seen that. I've been there, done that. It's tough.
And,
yeah.
and you just go, okay, how am I going to do this gracefully? How am I going to get to the conversation about what's going on in her private life? And I know if I don't address the movie and just go with the personal stuff, I'm going to lose her immediately. And you have to know how to make that transition and when to make it and how to make it in a manner where they don't just disengage with you and end up getting yes and no answers. And you have to know how to ask those questions. And that's the real magic. And still maintain a relationship of integrity where they want to come back and talk to you at some other point, because if they don't like you, they don't request you. If they don't request you for an interview, then your employer you have no worth to your employer. So you're really at the crux, at the crossroads, if you will, of maintaining the relationship where they want to come back and, have a second serving or a third or fourth.
Exactly.
Because they can trust you, but your producer also is saying, I need to get the goods because we don't have a show. So you're in the eye of the storm, and you have to try to make it a win-win all the way around.
Yeah, very interesting. You said making that connection. I try to make my connection with a lot of my guests and stuff, and I see that it's telling a story. As a professional wrestler, I had to tell a story, Mark. Interviewing somebody, I have to tell a story. Beginning, middle, end, and also being able to listen to the guest's answers and move on to the next question. Because if you're not listening to that person, Mark, you can't change up your questions based on that answer, right? That's key as a journalist, to really listen to your guest.
Well, the best question you could answer or ask of somebody is why. If you just stay in the moment with them and they'll tell a story, just follow up with, well, why? Why did that happen? Or, why did you do that? Or how did you feel about that? It's a very simple way to continue to dig deeper if you have the time. Sometimes you're not permitted that in an interview, but I've always looked at it as if this is not about me. And my job is to get them talking and keep them talking. It's a little different for me now because I host a 2-hour show on Hallmark, and people want to know a little bit about your personality. So I try to inject as much of my personal life as I can, but I always remember this is not about me, ever.
Exactly. It's about the guest and making the guest. So let's talk about Home and Family. Now, I'm really impressed with the Hallmark Channel and all the new programming. I've had other guests from the Hallmark Channel on the show. They're really doing a great job. But so tell us about this project and how you've really enjoyed it, especially having 2 hours to interview interesting people and bring, I think, that definite family life that you see so important for your family and families in general.
Well, first of all, let me just say thank you for allowing me a platform to talk about it, because I'm going to do my best not to sound like a PR machine, but I will tell you this, I'm talking from my heart when I say this. I am in the wheelhouse of where I need to be in my life right now, hosting a show called Home and Family, because it represents all that I really am as a person. So people who know me and have watched the show say that. They're like, this is what you worked your entire career for, is to be in this sort of chair right now. With that said, we feel, and we just celebrated our 500th episode before, just shortly before Christmas, and last night we got together as a crew and went out, and I gave a little talk, a little pat on the back to our crew guys, and there were a lot of young faces that were there, and I kept telling them, there's nothing like this. You will never find a show like this. If you do in your career, you're blessed, because this is like a unicorn, you're not going to find this. This is sort of a fantasy, but we really feel like we have something special. There's nothing like this on television anywhere.
No.
And when we launched, there was the Ricky Lake show. There was, Steve Harvey came on. Jeff Probst's show came on. Meredith Vieira has come and gone. Queen Latifah has come and gone. There's so many shows that have tried sort of this, in this sort of venue, have tried and failed. Steve Harvey is the one that stuck. Our show started off at the same time, and we have been building momentum slowly. And I put that on Hallmark because Bill Abbott and Michelle Vickery over there have had nothing but confidence and faith in us that we would get this right and get it going. And the first 2 years out of the gate, we've got Emmy nominations, and
Fantastic.
We continue to build audience. We can continue to build great guests who come into our show. And everybody who leaves our show walks out going, wow, this is a lot of fun. You guys are so nice, and this is just, it's really an improv. It's 2 hours of improv.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's as what you do and what I do, getting a chance to host something like that. It's a combination of how do I control this and yet let it live and be free and not manipulate it and just let the moments happen and trust that they will. That was hard for me. That was a whole
because you had everything. You have everything in the can, saying you only have 20 minutes. Now you're controlling. You're stirring the drink. You have 2 hours, so that you really can learn about those guests. So, Mark, I can't believe we're almost running out of time. Where's the best place we can watch your show, find out information, see stuff online, and also find out information on you? Where's the best place to go?
Yeah, you can. I'm on all the social medias, Facebook. I'm on Twitter at Mark Steins. I'm on Instagram, and invite everybody to jump in because I've been really getting back into the social media stuff recently.
Yeah.
But Hallmark Channel is the place to find us. We're on from 10 to 12 every day. Check your local listings, as you say, because some of the affiliates and whatnot carry us. But the great thing is Hallmark reruns us right after. So we tape the day before because we're on the West Coast. But we tape the day before, and then the show runs, but then the previous day runs right after us. So it's a 4-hour block, and if you miss one, you can watch the rerun. And of course, my mom watches them all. But yeah, so you can find us there.
I like the idea about family, and that's so great. So, Mark, thanks again for calling. The program will stay in touch. We'll connect through social media, and it was an honor to learn from a journalist like yourself and a great host. So, thanks again for calling.
Thank you so much. You're so kind. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right, take care, Mark. Okay, bye-bye. That was the Neil Haley Show. See you next week. Take care, everyone.